Thank you, Stephanie and Rob. Calling me deeper. Oh, the sound of gospel music. Gospel roots run deep in my family. As many of you know, I grew up in the church in Decatur, Illinois, and my dad was a minister, and he was an ordained elder. And my mom was a singer. She was a choir director, and she directed all the choirs, the little kids choir, the junior choir, the adult choir. You get the picture. And she loved gospel music. Gospel music was playing in our house all the time. We had one of those floor model stereos called the Magnavox. Some of y'all know the Magnavox. And we played all the gospel greats: James Cleveland, Shirley Caesar, Walter and Edwin Hawkins, and the Clark sisters. And we just had so much music going that we decided we would start our own little family group. We had a family group. And at our church on Sunday nights, we had something called testimony service or testimonial service. And we would sing these joyful, exuberant call and response songs. And then in between each song, somebody would get up and share a testimony or something good that happened to them during that week, or maybe some answered prayer. And then that would go on for a while, and then the preacher would preach. The preacher would preach and preach and preach. And then at the end, he'd have an altar call, calling for those who want to give their hearts to the Lord. And so one Sunday night, I stood up, and he called, "Will there be a one?" And I stood up, and I was in grade school. I was a little thing, and my eyes barely came up over the back of the church pew like this. And so I stood up, and he said, "Will there be one tonight? Who would like to come?" And I put my hand up. My auntie sitting next to me, she said, "Put your hand up." And I put my hand up, and he said, "Will there be a one?" And I wanted to go, "Over here." And so he went on with the service, and fortunately my auntie Georgia said, "That's okay, baby. God sees your hand and your heart." Because even then, back then as a child, I had this yes deep down in my heart. And so that's what I want to talk about for the next few minutes, is that yes. Because I believe that when you say yes in your heart to a spiritual idea or to God, that it blossoms and blooms and reverberates out into the universe. And it sets things into motion. And I believe that we're all interconnected in this human family, and that when we activate the power of the affirmative, that yes, we have an impact on others, on our surroundings, on our community, and on our world. So I want to share a bit about what does that yes feel like in the beginning, or what does that look like? How do you activate that yes? And how do we keep that going, and why is it important? Well, I went on through junior high school and through college, high school, and then on to college, and I was holding on to my yes and my commitment, but more importantly to God. But have you ever been raring to go off to something, and then you get there and it's not what you expected? I guess I thought I was going off to college to this more mature, intellectual, scholastic atmosphere, and what a rude awakening I got. I was new on the campus of Eastern Michigan University, just outside of Detroit, and I wasn't making that many friends. And I had this course load with all this science because somebody picked this major of medical technology, and I had chemistry and biology and all this in one term. And I was wondering what happened, because I had graduated from high school with honors, and I was this Miss Social Butterfly, but now I was a nobody. And so I wasn't making that many friends, and I thought I would, do something about that. So I pledged a sorority, for more social acceptance. Well, that didn't work either. I found myself flat on my back, in bed, with the flu, with a fever, and I was just, stressed out. So I called my dad. my dad, the minister, Daddy, will you pray for me? And Daddy prayed, he prayed, and finally, I think he said something like, Lord, give her peace, and I was able to drift off and go back to sleep, finally. And about 2 o'clock in the morning, my eyes popped open, and the room was very still. And I could see out of my dorm room window, and there was about a foot of snow on the ground, and it was so cold that you know how there's crust on top of the snow. It was so cold. But the moon was out, and it was a clear night, and it was glistening and reflecting on the top of that crust of snow. And I could see the stars, a deep navy blue sky. And it was very still outside, very still in my room. And I heard something within me say, you are called. You are called. And I said, yep, that's right. I am called. And I just sat there, and I felt this tug on my heart that yes, it was still there. It might have been clouded over with all these challenges with school and everything, but even in the midst of these challenges, I knew that whatever I was saying yes to, I would be guided. I couldn't articulate it all right then, but something that was calling me, I knew it was kind of faint. At first, it seemed like it's kind of faint. Like me, you might whisper, yeah, that's right. It whispers and you whisper back. But I knew I had to go on and trust and be open to God's guidance. Of course, later my mind kicked in like, the next week my mind kicked in like, you what? You're gonna go to church and say what? Because at my church they didn't ordain women ministers, so it's like, what meaneth this? I felt a little bit like Moses, when God called Moses to do some things, and he was like, oh, Lord, no, not me. I am not eloquent of speech, and I'm slow to speech. It's like, call somebody else. Call my brother Aaron. Yay, Aaron's here. But anyway, I went on, and I had my yes. I knew I just had to be open and trust. But funny as it seems, after that, I don't know if this is my guidance or not, but I left the church. I left because the church I was going to, it wasn't feeding me. And I still had my Bible, and I still prayed, but for the moment, it just was, my relationship with God was not going to be in this box or paradigm like I was used to. So, but anyway, things began to turn around, and I did finish college, and I graduated. And then I found my way back to something that really gave me joy. It really began to feed my soul. I went back to singing. And I was expressing my joy and lifting myself, and in turn, I was lifting others. You see, when you find yourself, when you're lifting yourself up, and finding your true self and your true joy, you lift others up. And it was through singing I felt like I found myself, I found my voice. But at the same time, I felt like there was this big rope around my waist that was pulling me through different churches. I had gone from my denomination to a similar type church, an independent community church. And then from there, I went on to a faith charismatic church. And the charismatic movement started like mid-60s, and it was very lively, and they believe in the operation of spiritual gifts, sort of like the New Testament churches. And so I was on the ministry team. I was on the worship team. I was in a Christian band, and one night a keyboard player came to rehearsal. He was all excited. Have you guys read this book? And we were like, no, what's that? And he said, it's The Infinite Way by Joel Goldsmith. We were like, no, we have not heard of such. And so we began to read it, and a few of us, and we were like, okay, we're kind of passing it around. Like, we get caught reading this, we'll get put out of the church for sure. But when I opened it, I saw it said, to you, to whom this already belongs. And I was like, yes. And I kept reading, and it said, there is a peace be still within our own consciousness, which will still every storm in our experience and heal our diseases and lift us above the strife and weariness of human existence. Our part is to recognize its presence within ourselves and let it fulfill its mission. This universal power of truth, life, and love is ours, regardless of which church we attend or what philosophy we follow. It abides at the center of every individual, awaiting only our recognition. So, yeah. This was a big shift for me. When I began to read this book, once again, I felt that yes, because I agreed with what it was saying. Somehow, I always knew that that was true. There is something within my own consciousness. There's an inner knowing when things just sort of click. And, yeah, that's right. I knew that. So, and this led to the second thing I want to talk about, which is something that helped me activate my yes, bump it up a notch. I began learning about meditation and adding that to my prayer practice now, because I wanted to get in touch with that peace be still. My heart was calling me to experience God at a newer level. So I thought I would try this. I didn't know about meditation. So I found a hallway closet and I pushed the coats aside and I slid a chair in the closet and I pulled the door closed and I sat there in the silence, in the dark. And if there was light coming out from under the door, I put a rug there. I mean, I was dark. I couldn't see it. I had to really shut out the noise. I had a lot of noise going. And so I sat there in the quiet. And they say when you meditate that you can begin to say a truth statement or passage of scripture. And I sat there with something like Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. In the closet, be still and know that I am God. And pretty soon my body got still. I was relaxed and my mind got still. And it felt so peaceful. And then it was like a presence announced itself. It was so clear to me. It was an awareness deep down on the inside of me that I had never felt before. And this tremendous love, tremendous peace. It was like there was this union. So that unmistakable yes started to bubble up again. And when I came out of that closet, I knew, yes, I am the child of God. I am the offspring of God, and nothing shall be able to separate me from the love of God. Nothing shall be able to separate me from my all-sufficiency. That unmistakable yes was bubbling up again, and I knew that before the foundation of the world, I was in the mind of God. And being made in the image and likeness of God, I had these divine pattern and imprint. God is spirit. I am spirit. I could claim my divine birthright and say yes to wholeness, peace, abundance, joy. And this is because they're already inside of me. They're already part and parcel of my being, part of my innate nature as a child of God. And so now I was praying from this awareness. I was praying from this awareness of the indwelling presence within me, as opposed to praying to God up there, out there, somewhere to get the blessings to me. So everything shifted with this new way of praying and meditating. Sure, things happened along the way. I had some health challenges. Several years ago, I've had $100,000 worth of debt that I got out from under. But when things come up now, I have a new way of dealing with it. So I can go to my center and meditate, and I can say, let this mind be in me that was also in Christ Jesus. I know that whatever comes up, whatever I need, whatever I encounter, it's already done. So meditating, listening for that still small voice, was the way that I amplified and activated activated that yes. So fast forward to about a year and a half ago at the in Detroit at the Unity Convention. I thought I was just going for a week of vacation, and just meeting all these people from all over the nation from Unity, new licensed teacher, and just seeing what was going on in the Unity movement overall. But that Tuesday night at the conference, I heard the keynote speaker and a singer named Kim, K-E-M, and he's from Unity, Renaissance Unity in Detroit. He's now a successful singer on the Motown record label. And he told his amazing story, how he had conquered abuse and he was homeless, but he had found his way back to those unity principles and turned his life around and had gotten back in touch with his musical gifts. And what he said that night that fell on me like a ton of bricks was that he said, many of you out there who have some gift to bring to the world, and your ministry or whatever it is, it's not about you, but it's for all the people waiting for you to step up into your callings and gifts and say yes. They're waiting. And I was like, bing, green light. Yes, he's right. That's it. And I started, after the service, I started back to my hotel room excited, and all I could hear was this chorus of this little bit of song that we used to sing back in my childhood. It was called like the yes chant, yes chorus, and it would go something like, yes, 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 yes. And that kept playing all the way back to my hotel room. And the next morning, I was up out of my hotel room and downstairs on the mezzanine level of the hotel looking for Reverend Mark Fuss, looking for the admissions vendor table, asking what do I need to do to start this process to apply to ministerial school. And here I am today. And once the conference was over, I met up with a couple buddies from the college, and I hadn't been there in decades, and I rode around to see what new buildings they had built and everything. And I was like, can you imagine that? I am right back where I first heard the call, Detroit, outside of Michigan. Lesson being, next time you go to Michigan, no. No, something always happens. But the unmistakable yes is in each of us. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about being controlled or cajoled or coerced. I'm not even talking about predestination or anything like that. It's like a call. The yes is like, it's like a call or invitation to each of us to be the wonderful, unique gift that we are to the world. It might start out like a whisper. It might seem faint because it's awaiting our recognition of it. As we acknowledge it, though, it develops over time as we nurture it and water it with our faith and trust and act on it. And finally, this is why having that yes is so important, is because when you say yes to your true self, yes to Christ in you, the hope of glory, everyone around you gets blessed. When you stand in your Christhood, and I heard somebody the other week say, when you stand in your Christness and affirm that you are the beloved of God, it ripples out and flows out and radiates in concentric circles. People will want to be around you and they don't even know why. It's because you live in conscious union with God and you just exude that unconditional love that is magnetic, attractive, and a harmonizing force. That's the way I believe Jesus lived. And about 4 weeks ago, before spring break was over, I took a day trip to see an old friend of mine, Rhonda. She used to be my boss in Washington, D.C., and we met up in She's in Nebraska. I'm here. We met up in Omaha and went to a museum, had lunch, just kicking it around town. But when we got ready to go, we hugged, hadn't seen each other in a long time. And before she let me go, she said, Dinah, the last couple years have been really rough for me, but you helped me through it. You helped me through it. And as I close, I just want to encourage you to just be the best Christ you can be. Just open up and let the yes flow. Tap into that wellspring. Amp it up with prayer and meditation. Your yes doesn't have to be music or singing or being a minister or anything like that. You can express your own individual, unique gift by being a good friend, being a good listener, helping the homeless, maybe inventing something that will bless all of humanity. But the world is waiting. Whatever it is, the world is waiting. Now, I have something, an exercise, to remind you of your own unmistakable yes. For one day or more, for one day in the upcoming week, I'd like for you to wear this yes button. Yes. This is a yes button, not a yes but. Okay? This is not a yes but. This is a yes button. And as you put these yes buttons on, be gentle. I was, construction. I just want you to think about opening up to yes, saying yes to your purpose. And as you get your yes buttons on, I want to sing a little bit of a song my brother Michael wrote called Yes to Your Will, Yes to Your Way. It's give you time. All we have is time. No. I lift up my heart and say yes. I lift up my heart and say yes. Yes to your will, yes to your way. I lift up my heart and say yes. Everybody got one? Okay. Now say this with me. Repeat after me. When I embrace and express the Christ within,
when I embrace and express the Christ within,
I raise up humanity.
I raise up humanity.
And I bless the world.
And I bless the world.
And I say yes.
And I say yes.
Let me hear you again. And I say yes.
And I say yes.
Thank you, and God bless.